guest today is Alan Reenstra, but this is really about the 7 fundamentals that make up a practitioner for EPRA. Alan was one of the very initial founders of this. So Alan, I remember back when we were sitting at the EPRS in Houston, and the idea at the advisory board that we'd be doing something like this, and you were all in at that time. I really appreciate that. But I want to talk about the vision. You and your partner, the other Poobah, the two of you have a vision for the company. How does that align with what you perceive the vision of what we do at EPRA? How are we aligned together?
Well, I'd say there's probably 10 different ways to answer that, because we have a lot of different visions at SDT, but I think the biggest one is that we don't think of ourselves, as much as we need to sell our products to stay in business, we need to sell our products and get our solutions to market, because it's, let's face it, we all need to make money. We're really an education company first. We don't believe in the hard sell. We believe that if we educate our customers, then we don't really have to sell our solutions, that people will just default to us. So when you described the vision of EPRA to me, I'm like, oh, I'm all in, because this is exactly what we do. So I just saw it, I saw it as a platform to help our company, but I also saw it as a way that we could bring our message about reliability and safety on a specific asset class back to our customers. So I just see it as another platform where we can be helpful and share our knowledge.
Great. That's you hit the nail on the head. That is what EPRA is built, practitioner to practitioner, iron sharpening iron. The rule of thumb, I think this was done, a survey that was done about a year ago, and it's probably even more so today, that 75% of the information that a buyer needs to make a decision is information that they gather on their own. They don't want to be sold either. They want to gather good information, and then they want to connect with a company doing that. And that's what SDT does. I also, I can align with that, because at our EPRS, you were one of the, what we call speed dating, where we put our practitioners in front of our members, and we broke the membership up. Rather than a guy standing at a podium speaking to an audience half asleep, we made them go around to each of the stations. Alan was one of those stations. You did a brilliant job of connecting. My next question, safety and reliability. Let's talk about how you think those two are inextricably connected.
Well, I'm really disappointed when I type reliability into a Microsoft Word document, and I right click and hit synonyms, and I don't see safety, and vice versa. And I really think that they are synonyms for each other. You can't have one without the other. One feeds the other. Reliability is reliability, and that's what drives safety. You just cannot exist and have a safe working environment if you have unreliable assets, if you have an unreliable culture. It just doesn't work.
We had a forums with a gentleman named Ron Moore, who you know. Ron was one of our keynotes. Between Ron Moore, Doc Palmer, and Jack Nicholas, they are probably 3 of the reliability gurus that if there was a Mount Rushmore of reliability, those 3 would be on it. The other would probably be Ramesh Gulati, and we're working on Ramesh. We just hadn't had a chance to get them. But Ron came in and he talked about the correlation between UEE, the effectiveness and the asset utilization and plant utilization. And the better the utilization of the assets in a facility, the lower the accident rate. So you take OSHA statistics and you take the statistics that we would measure reliability by, and they are directly correlated. The more reactive maintenance that you do, the higher the OSHA reportables are. So we're going to be making this a big case, and you'll be part of that as we do the reliability and safety message. In fact, I'm going to recruit you right now live. Okay, you've either got to say, I'll think about it. We're creating a safety council within EPRA, and we've just had a lot of people say, I'd like to serve, so that we get the message that you're talking about. Are you in? You raised your hand.
How selfish would I be to not be in on that? That's no.
And you will be a valuable part of that. Talk about quality. I know SDT creates a quality product, but how do you, from a quality standpoint, maintain that? having a global organization with a lot of different people using your equipment?
Right. It's a good point. It's a good question. So, everything that we make, we design ourselves, and that the design elements in our instruments and our software are all customer feedback driven. So, and you see it on a lot of things that you buy now. Maybe it's assembled offshore, but it's designed in America. Well, a lot of our products are all manufactured in Europe, in Brussels, Belgium. That's where our facility is, and that's where all of our super skilled product engineers, our research and development guys, and they're super committed. They're super passionate. Even through this lockdown that we went through, we all went through some really difficult times. These guys just carried on. I mean, even though they were at home working, they kept on working. So first and foremost, we have a super passionate R&D team, and they take feedback really well. And we get so much feedback from our customers on how to continually improve our products and our solutions, and make them more suited to what they want to accomplish with them. We're all working towards the same outcomes. Now, our factory in Brussels is an ISO 9001 certified manufacturing facility. So we follow all of the guidelines that we need to produce a consistent, reliable, safe product. And we're audited regularly. We've never had a bad audit. We follow the European community standards for electronics, RoHS compliance, all of those things. So I say if there's ever been one knock against SDT, is that we take a little bit longer than usual to refresh our product cycle. And that's because we're just maniacally obsessed about quality. We're always very reluctant to kick something out the door just to say we shipped something. So I don't know if that's a knock on us or not, but we'll take it. We'll take it as a feather in our quality cap.
Yeah, and I want to you're ISO 9000 certified, so obviously you've got the system down, which also defines the continuous improvement. But there's a relatively, it's not new, but we are beginning to use it differently at EPRA. We did for one of our members, we did what we call a RED talk, reliability engineering by design. That's what you just described, that you design it right in the first place. So when you said quality, and I heard you say it starts with the design, it's reliability and quality design. It's in the design. I think that's great. Well done.
Thank you.
There kind of answers a question I wanted to ask you about continuous improvement, because if you're ISO, if you're reliability design, I guarantee you, as soon as they get one out the door, they're looking at how to improve it, how to make it better. What's the next thing that we need to do to make it more usable? So I'll just give you that. Anything you want to add to that about the idea of continuous improvement?
Sure. I mean, we always know that perfection is not attainable. I look forward to the day that I attain perfection, because it means I have to stop doing what I'm doing. So, every morning, if you don't wake up out of bed and say, what am I going to do today to make myself better than I was yesterday, then I don't think you should bother getting out of bed. And that's not just to stay ahead of our competitors, because I'm not really that interested in their playbook. I'm only interested in what's written in our playbook. As far as continuous improvement goes, you just have to look at, all you need to do is switch on one of our instruments and look at the firmware ID code, and see that the number of revisions that we push out to our devices, even once they're gone out and into the field, we're continually pushing updates, firmware updates, and improvements. It's sometimes it's a weekly, sometimes it's even daily. We're always trying to make things better, and these forward steps are answers to questions that are posed to us by our customers. So everything's driven by customer outcomes.
I love that. And so the continuous improvement driven by customers' input, customers' desires, focusing. That's excellent. You're like my Tesla, right? I mean, you park the thing and you come out and they've updated it from someplace out in the Nevada desert or the California factory, whatever it is. which is an amazing thing for an auto company, right? Because my old Lexus, you had to send off for the disc, and you had to plug the disc in to change anything. And by the way, you paid $500 for that, but
Yeah.
interesting times. I want to, because of what you've just talked about, your product, the people that use it, the people in your company that use it, you've got to have a commitment to learning, and that's, we call it the commitment to lifelong learning. There's too many people that think know it, they're done, right? Hey, I went to college, I got the degree, I'm done. It's not that way anymore. Your company is probably a perfect example of that, because if they don't learn, they're going to get left behind. Talk a little bit about how you handle lifelong learning within the company, depending upon your customers to do it, knowing full well not everybody does.
Yeah. Well, we haven't, you want to get me on a training rant, I'm going to be talking for a long, long time, because I'm super passionate about training. And I'm responsible for a lot of what happens within SDT's training programs. And I'm also the epitome of a lifetime learner. First of all, I'm working at a fairly high level inside of an electronics and an engineering firm. But what most people don't realize about me is that I studied ancient civilization history and South African political science in university. So I am the least qualified to be doing what I'm doing. And yet I'm the most qualified because I've just stuck it through. I'm entering my 30th year with the company. My good friend and corporate trainer, Bob Lees, refers to me as a competency-based learner. And so I think competency-based learning is an extremely strong phrase, because it denotes something a little bit different than what we think about when we get ourselves a university degree or a high school degree or a welder's ticket or a trades ticket or a certification, say in infrared or ultrasound or vibration. You know, certifications are an important part of training. We all need to be certified. I'll look behind me, I don't have any certificates hanging on my wall. As much as I think that certification is necessary, too many people think that that's all they need.
Yes.
And it's the furthest thing from the truth. So when I develop a training course for SDT, our outline usually consists of 3 different categories of learning: foundational knowledge, practical knowledge, and then hardware and software knowledge. You need to know how to push the buttons. But foundational knowledge is the type of knowledge that we pull out of, this is what we get from university, right? We book learning, if you will. Well, book learning, I know a lot of book smart people who don't know how to navigate themselves through the hallway and out the door. So as much as we need book learning, give me any day. Well, case in point, one of the best, we do some service work through some of our partnered ultrasound programs. The top 2 vibration analysts in our company are not Cat 1 certified, but they could sit and take the Cat 4 exam, but they've just never had time or they've never bothered. But through 30+ years of experience, they're off the charts. So I'll take somebody with practical knowledge over certificates on the wall any day.
So now you say, okay, because we're going to be developing a certified electric reliability professional program, but I do want to make it CBL. I do think competency-based learning changes everything. I'm going to drive the member services manager, Rachel Linke, nuts when I say, I think we should have a CBL council, just like we have a safety council, competency-based learning, because most of our member companies that are resource companies have some form of training, and if we build it around that, I think we can add more value to the conversation. You mentioned lifelong learning, and there's another part of it. Are you willing to share? Now that goes back to what you said at the very beginning, and what I said about you when you came to EPRS. You shared practical, competency-based knowledge with people. Now, I do know that ultrasound was at the foundation, but that's what the members of that conference wanted to hear about. But they didn't want to hear about you selling a product. Here's the thing. So the idea that I don't have to ask you if you and the company are lifelong sharers because I watched it. But talk a little bit about that experience where you're sharing about the knowledge that you think advances electric power reliability versus knowledge that advances them to buy your product. Talk a little bit about that sharing component.
Sure. I mean, what's a list of things that make you nervous in life? You know, there's always a list of things that I shudder or I get nervous about, and I shouldn't be nervous in the sales environment, and yet I always am. And it's when the customer or you ask me that one question. Well, how is your solution different than your competitors? And then I just start to, I hate that question because I don't really care. I don't really care how I'm different than theirs or how they're different than mine. What I care about is what outcomes that I can accomplish. And if the first thing in the sales conversation is to find out whether or not your solution is aligned with the outcome that your customer wants in the first place. And if it doesn't, then just look them in the eye and say, sorry, man, I can't help you. But and maybe I can even point you somewhere where it does. I don't know if I'm answering the question you specifically asked, but I would.
No,
I'm much more. Sorry.
Yeah, you veered off into this sales thing, but you hit a major point. And here's what I think you will agree with me. Many times the customer doesn't know until you educate them. And when you educate, they go, oh, I mean, if I've heard in my career once, I've heard thousands of times, well, I didn't know you could do that. Well, then you point and say, well, yeah, that's what, and you point to your literature and you point to everything and you go, have you not read any of this? And the answer is, I'm busy. No, I didn't observe it. I didn't know your company did that. I know you didn't do that. That's what you did for us when you shared. You let people go, I didn't know that ultrasound, not just SDT, I didn't know that we could accomplish that with ultrasound. But that's good, because if you share in the sales process, you're exactly right. We're not there to pitch anything, but we're there to educate. And that's what I love about EPRA and why we promote companies like SDT as our resource practitioners, because you bring knowledge to people. I want to go into one that, oh my gosh, you are younger than me by decades. So you've got a lot more time of this, but you've already had enough decades, 3 years, 3 decades, 30 years. You've already have enough experience with it, and you must see it out there. This idea of generational transformation of knowledge. And it's not just to the kids coming out of college, and it's to the 30s and the 40s something that things are changing and we've got to educate them. Talk a little bit about how you think SDT handles it, because you got to be doing that in Belgium with the people that design and make the product as they age out. But then how do you help the marketplace with that?
That's a real challenge, man. We've talked about skill shortages. I follow a lot of conversations on LinkedIn about skill shortages and people retiring out. And by the way, we're always looking to hire young, energetic guys and gals that want to go out there and change the world. But some of the best hires that I've done in the last few years are retired customers.
Oh yeah.
Guys who've worked in the field. One of our top corporate trainers right now has over 40 years in the pulp and paper industry in Canada. We brought him online when he retired. We brought him online on a part-time that's turned into a full-time basis, but he's loving his retirement, and because he's the type of guy that just loves to share all of the wisdom that he's gathered over 43 years. And I love guys like that want to stay active afterwards, not just for their own egos, but because they recognize also that there is this skills gap. There's a shortage of, and part of it's technology driven too. You see all of these wonderful new gadgets and technologies coming out, whether it's laser alignment systems, ultrasound systems, infrared cameras, vibration analysis systems, and these things are all designed to do the thinking for you. And maybe I'm becoming my father. I'm becoming old school. I don't know, but I always say, if you don't understand the fundamentals, if you don't understand how a gadget arrives at the decision that it arrived at, then how do you know if it's right? It's like giving a kid a calculator and saying, here, you don't need to learn your times tables, just push the buttons. They'll never
Yeah.
know if the outcome is the right outcome because they're just pushing buttons. And that's what I see as part of the skills gap. So there's a debate going on, or a discussion going on LinkedIn right now with some friends, and they're comparing laser alignment systems of today to old dial indicator and straight edge measurements of yesterday. And I say you should never operate a laser alignment system unless you know how to do a reverse dial, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know if you're actually achieving the outcome you should. So there, the EPRA platform is giving us an opportunity to talk about ultrasound, to talk about how it engages with safety and reliability, and how it advances us to have more reliable electrical assets. And this is the platform that I love, because I don't have to put myself in the discomfort zone of trying to sell widgets. I can just educate people on all of the versatility, all of the applications, all of the things that you can do with ultrasound that people don't really realize. That's what I love about EPRA, and that's why I'm here for the long haul.
You know, we're coming to the end of this, but you've just hit something, and I greatly appreciate that, because that's what we built it for. It's the idea of what does it look like. Now, I know we're in the midst of a COVID crisis as we do this, but this will be online for a good bit, and there'll be another crisis. But the one thing that I'm asking people, and I think it's important. Like, I've got two 30-something-year-old sons, and they are the greatest challenge to me. In fact, this is my third. I have retired twice already, so I'm my third career, if you would, almost. But the things that they remind me is that you never leave a legacy until you stop doing what you're doing. So you're always building your legacy. Alan, you're a young person compared to me. What is the legacy personally, and the legacy for SDT that you want to see when you stop, that you can say, hey, this is where we've come, this is what we've done, this is how we've left the world a better place? Talk to me about that.
Well, this is maybe a bit of a side tangent, but you know, one of my favorite movies, not just the fact that it's a Christmas movie, but one of my favorite movies is It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes, yes.
And you know, my wife and I we watch Christmas movie after Christmas after Christmas movie all through the holidays, and then at the very last one, we always save the best for last. And there's in the office of George's father, there's a little plaque on the wall that says the only thing you can take with you is that which you've given away. And that, whether that's money, whether that's knowledge, I mean, for me, it's knowledge. Everything that I learn, that's my legacy, as I want to continue to teach, continue to, I want our client base to be considered the most intelligent ultrasound inspectors out there. Our people are, and so that's the legacy for me. And we've got a bunch of up and coming 20-somethings and 30-somethings that are starting off their careers with me, and some of them are in operations, some of them are in admin, and some of them are in sales. And I look at these guys, I go, man, some of these guys just remind me of me not that long ago. And both of my sons that are 20-somethings are working in the business as well, and they're both have their own unique skill set. And you know, one's a marketer and a writer, and the other one's a tinkerer and a fixer. You know, he likes to take things apart and fix them again. And the other guy, you know, I've always considered myself a fairly good writer, and now my 23-year-old's starting to tear apart my work and edit it for me. So you know, I've got a legacy to my sons, but now I also see some of the guys that are going out and doing the road, you know, the heavy road miles and the trips that I used to do, and they're coming to me for advice, and I'm giving them the best advice I can give them, and I see them evolving into fantastic citizens. You know, whether they become great salespeople or not, I don't care. Whether they become, what I care about is that they support the customers with the same desire and passion that I do. And at the end of the day, for you, Alan, and for me, our job is to create good citizens. And if we can do that, then.
Well undone. I have a son that lives in California, one that lives in London, and I can say they are good citizens. They are good people. That's a big thing. The only three things
that doesn't surprise me.
The only three things we really have are time, talent, and treasure. So the money part of it, the knowledge, the talent part of it, and give people the time. And time seems to be the commodity of today, and it's the hardest thing. So with that, I want to thank you for giving of your time, not just your time to do this profile, but your time for the EPRS, the advisory board. Alan is one of the members of the EPRA advisory board. And I can't thank you enough. You were one of the founders. At some point in time, I will bestow upon you a shirt that says founder. And there are about 11 of us, and every one of us probably have this same passion. So thank you very much. This has been an EPRA practitioner profile with Alan Reenstra, who is one of our resource practitioners. It has been a blessing, it has been a joy, and thank you for being a part of the EPRA founding members.
I wouldn't have it any other way. It's just an absolute pleasure for me. Thank you.